How did ancient people navigate? Imagine you're in a boat in the middle of the ocean. No land in sight, no phone, no GPS. No compass even. Just water in every direction as far as you can see. Now imagine finding a tiny island thousands of miles away and actually making it there. That sounds impossible. But people did this thousands of years ago again and again. They didn't have any of the tools we use today. Instead, they used something even more powerful. They paid very, very close attention to the world around them. The sky, the sea, even the birds became their map. Here's how they did it. Reading the sky like a map, the simplest tool ancient people had was right above their heads every night: the stars. Stars always rise in the same spot and set in the same spot, night after night. If you know which star rises in the east and which one sets in the west, you already have a compass, you just have to look up. One star was especially useful in the North Star. It barely moves at all night after night, always sitting almost exactly above the North Pole. So if a traveler could find that one star, they instantly knew which way was north. Everything else south, east, west falls into place after that. But here's the amazing part. Some ancient navigators didn't just know one star. They memorized hundreds of them, where each one rises, where each one sets, and what time of year you'd see it. It's like having an entire GPS system, except the whole thing is stored in your memory, passed down from teacher to student, generation after generation. Real example. The Polynesian wayfinders. The best example of this might be the Polynesian sailors of the Pacific Ocean. Thousands of years ago, they sailed enormous double-hulled canoes across a stretch of ocean bigger than the entire United States, finding tiny islands you could easily sail right past without noticing. They built what's called a star compass in their heads, a mental map dividing the whole sky into sections, based on where different stars rise and set. A short trip might only need a handful of stars. A long voyage across thousands of miles might use over 100. And stars were just the beginning. During the day, when the stars weren't visible, these navigators read the ocean itself. Waves and swells move differently depending on which direction they're coming from. And they even bend and bounce off islands that are still too far away to see, sort of like ripples changing shape when they hit a rock in a pond. A skilled navigator lying in the bottom of the canoe could feel these changes through the hull and know there's land that way, long before anyone could spot it. They also watched birds. Certain seabirds fly out to sea each morning to hunt fish, then fly back to land every single evening. So if a navigator saw those birds early in the day, they'd sail the opposite direction the birds were flying, because that meant land and away from it. And if they saw the same birds late in the day, they'd follow them home. Stars, waves, and birds. No compass, no map. Just decades of learning to read the ocean like a book, and it worked well enough to settle islands scattered across an area covering a third of the entire planet. Real example, Viking sunstones far to the north in the cold seas near Iceland and Greenland. Viking sailors faced a different problem. The Vikings also used the sun and stars to navigate, but way up near the Arctic, the sky is often covered in thick gray clouds for days at a time. No sun, no stars. Just fog and gray in every direction. According to old Icelandic writings, Vikings solved this with a strange trick, a special crystal called a sunstone. When held up to the sky and turned slowly, this crystal could actually reveal the exact direction of the sun, even when it was completely hidden behind clouds. That sounds almost like magic, but scientists have tested this in modern times and found it really works. The crystal bends light in a special way that lets you see where the sun is, even through fog. So even on the grayest, gloomiest day at sea, a Viking sailor could hold up a small stone and still figure out which way was home. Real example, songlines in Australia. In Australia, Aboriginal peoples developed one of the most creative navigation systems on Earth: songlines. A songline is basically a very, very long song that describes a journey across the land, mentioning landmarks, water holes, hills, and turns, all set to music and rhythm, often connected to stories about ancestors. To travel somewhere, you didn't need a paper map at all. You just needed to remember the song and sing it as you walked. The words told you when to turn, what landmark to look for next, and how far you'd gone. Some of these songlines stretch for hundreds, even over 1,000 miles, crossing entire deserts. And this wasn't just useful for one person. It was knowledge that could be taught to a child, passed down for thousands of years, all without a single line ever being written down. In fact, when explorers later mapped parts of Australia, some of their routes matched ancient songlines almost exactly, because those really were the smartest paths across the land, and people already knew them by heart. Why this all matters: look at what all three of these examples have in common. None of them had a compass. None of them had a written map. What they had instead was attention, a deep, careful habit of noticing small details in the world, and a system for remembering and sharing what they noticed. That's really what navigation was before modern tools, not a device but a skill. A skill built from watching the sky every clear night until you know it by heart. A skill built from feeling the ocean until you can sense land before you see it. A skill built from turning a path into a song so it's never forgotten. Here's the fun part, you actually do a small version of this yourself all the time. If you've ever found your way home by remembering turn left at the big tree, then right after the red house, you basically made your own tiny songline. If you've ever looked at the sun to guess what time it is, or noticed the North Star on a clear night, you're using the exact same idea ancient sailors used to cross entire oceans. The tools they had were simple. What made it work was how closely they paid attention, and that's something anyone can still do today, phone or no phone. Long before satellites were watching us from space, people were watching the world instead, the stars, the waves, the birds, the land, and it took them absolutely everywhere they wanted to go.